In this problem, we are being asked to find the equations of both the median and the altitude from vertex E. The very first thing we need is to know for sure what a median is and an altitude. I'll start with the altitude. Shown here in blue, the altitude is the point drawn from one vertex, creating a right angle with the opposite side in the triangle. An altitude also is known as a height. So if a question asks you for the height, it's the same thing. A median, shown here in red, is a line drawn from a vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. It is possible for the median and the altitude to be the same, but that will only happen in an isosceles triangle. Let's start by finding our median. The first thing we have to do to find the equation of the median is to find the x and y coordinates of point A. Since point A has to be the midpoint of side FG, we're using the midpoint formula. As I fill in the midpoint formula with the x and y coordinates of points F and G, it will look like this. We end up with 12 halves, 11 halves, or 6, 11 halves. I'm going to label my drawing. The midpoint formula is telling me that the x and y coordinates of point A are 6 and 11 halves. Now I have to find the equation of the median. Knowing 2 points that are on the line, though, I can always derive the slope and then derive the equation. It will look like this. The slope formula, filled in with the x and y coordinates of points A and E, gives me a slope of 5/8. Then I derive the equation by making the slope equal to y minus and x minus using one of the 2 points. I'm choosing point E because it doesn't have a fraction in it. Cross multiplying, this gives me this expression, 8 times y minus 3 is equal to 5 times x minus 2. And I simplify that and give my equation in the form ax plus by plus c equals 0 or y equals mx plus b, whichever I prefer. In this case, I prefer y equals mx plus b, so I am giving my final answer for the equation of the median as y equals 5/8 x plus 14/8. Now let's find the equation of the altitude. The first step for finding the equation of the altitude is to find the slope of side FG, which is perpendicular to the altitude. Plugging the x and y coordinates of points F and G into the slope formula, I get a slope of -1/4. Since the altitude has to be perpendicular to side FG, that means I can do my justification like so. M1 is -1/4, M1 is perpendicular to M2, therefore M2 must be equal to +4/1. The slope of the altitude from point E is 4, and can be expressed as a fraction as 4/1. Now I'm taking my slope 4/1, and I'm going to use it to derive the equation of the altitude. I make slope equal to y minus over x minus, and plug in one of the points I know is on the line. In this case, point E is the only point that I know is on the altitude, so I'm using the point 2, 3. Cross multiplying, I get the equation 1 times y minus 3 is equal to 4 times x minus 2. And this simplifies into y equals mx plus b form as y equals 4x minus 5. The equation of the altitude is y equals 4x minus 5. This is how we can find the equations of both the median and the altitude from any vertex in a triangle.